Hi guys, it's Gilly Hunt here with my A to Z guide to Stampin' Up products, and I'm on Y for yarn and ribbon, sort of the same thing. So we're going to look at all the ribbons and threads and things, and I'm going to take you through a whole lot of samples today and give you some tips and hints about tops and tails and tying. And at the very end, I'm going to give you my recommendation of the first 4 ribbons that you should buy if you're a brand new beginner. And that'll give you a good start to build your selection of ribbons from. So here goes. So let's start off with the really obvious thing. What do we do with ribbons? Well, we wrap up presents. So we wrap up little things. We maybe put some little zigzags across and decorate boxes. We might do the same with a simple box and just run a ribbon round the sides and then put a little bit of decoration on top. And we might also take a rather pretty little bag that we could put a cookie in, or a little selection of photographs maybe, and give them as a present. And all we're doing is using the ribbon just to kind of add some flavour to the gift wrapping. So we might use our ribbons for gifts, boxes, and tying things up in that way. Okay, now why on earth would we at Stampin' Up be shouting our heads off and going, yay, ribbons? Well, I'll tell you why we'd be going, yay, ribbons, because at Stampin' Up, and here's a whole load of things, let me just try and space them out a little bit. At Stampin' Up, what happens is we have beautifully colour coordinated items. You know that. You know, when we talked about embellishments, when we talked about marker pens and all kinds of things, we really highlighted the fact that if something is labelled real red, for example, every single item that's real red, whether it's card, paper, ribbon, whatever, is going to be the same red. So here's where it makes an enormous difference with the ribbons, because it means you can, for example, totally team up the colour and you know it's going to match perfectly. Okay, you're going to be able to take a piece of ribbon, and whether your blender pens that you've used to colour in your little piggy, you know this is going to be the perfect match with your piggy because it is the same colour. You're going to be able to match up beautifully the little handle on your bag or the toggle and the tags on your little box perfectly, absolutely no troubles. You know that if you want to make a card and you just take a little tiny piece of edging or some text and you team it up the ribbon, the whole thing will be tied together beautifully. And so on and so on. So here's some ribbon on a keyring. Here's a little paper clip that I've done. In fact, actually, I didn't do that. I'm telling you fibs. I have to say a really huge thank you to Sally for that. That was a thank you gift that she gave me. And I knew I was going to feature it here because it went so beautifully, and it shows you how the stamping inks go with the ribbons in the same way as the stamping inks here go beautifully with the ribbons here. And so on. So let's just show you a couple of things you can do with the ribbons here. This one, we've just put the simplest of little bows in contrast, whereas this one, I've actually put the handle in using one of our jute ribbons from a little while ago. And this is the other thing that matches up perfectly, is we can take the ribbons and the papers that go together, and we know that you're going to get a lovely, lovely blended match. So, first of all, colour coordinated. But even beyond that, we can do something even better with colour. So just give me 1 second. You're going to have to bear with me today. There'll be a few little gaps where there's nothing on screen because I'm having to just pop things away and I've got an awful lot of things to show you. So let's take that off. So talking about colours, I've just got a selection here of the colours that I have from this season. It's not all of them by any means, but I don't necessarily need to have all of the things this year because we've got some white ribbon. And I'm just going to bring these in, and I'm going to bring these in and just have a little play. Here we go. Now, the wonderful thing is that Stampin' Up! Do all these lovely ribbons and lovely colours, but even then you can have a colour that you really, really would like. And if you buy yourself some Stampin' Blends, which are these wonderful pens, okay, Stampin' Blends, if you buy some of these, and these are probably the same price as a reel or two of ribbon. So for the same price as another reel of ribbon, you can buy the blends. Now once you've bought the blends, you can use them for colouring and all sorts of other things. But look what else you can use them for. You can take some white ribbon and you can just very gently smooth, because it's alcohol ink, it sinks all the way through. So the front of your ribbon and the back of your ribbon are now the same colour. So we've now got Blackberry Bliss. And I could do that all the way along the ribbon, and now suddenly I've now got, instead of a white ribbon, I've got a Blackberry Bliss ribbon. Still got the silver because the silver doesn't absorb it. Okay, now I can do that with our lovely cotton ribbons. So here's one I've done with, let me just put them on the white background. Here's one I've done with the cotton ribbon. Excuse me. And I've done it with the balmy blue. And that now also means that I can take one of the finer, paler ribbons and I can darken it up and also have balmy blue. Look, I can do the same with the lace. So here's my balmy blue on the lace, which starts off as an ivory, very vanilla colour. And I can also do it on silvery grey ribbons, although the colour will not come true to the balmy blue. But it will colour all the same. So for example, I could colour this one up again using the Blackberry Bliss. Okay, but it won't come true to Blackberry Bliss. It will be a little bit different because it's not going onto a white ribbon. So there's a way of having even more colours, and if you start with a white ribbon and you use any of the Stampin' Blends, you will end up with a true to colour ribbon. So it will be absolutely true and it'll match all the things that are that colour in the catalogue. So wow, we've extended our range straight away, amazingly. So what would I do with ribbons? Well, one of my favourite things to make with ribbons are tags. So I've got a whole pile of tags here just to show you, just for fun. These are tags I've made over a little while. My only problem is I usually give away or send away all my best tags. So these are the ones that have kind of been left in the box, not sent so far. Now I want to just show you how simple it is to make these tags. You make them by using the tag topper, which is this, which is the punch. And this is how you tie the tag top. So you take your piece of string, ribbon, whatever, and you fold it in half. Okay? And I tend, but this is only my sort of vague rule, I tend to decide that the piece of ribbon needs to be twice the length, plus a little bit extra, plus about 1 inch, the length of my actual tag. It just gives you a nice balanced feel to it. So first of all then, we're going to take it, we're going to push it in half like that. And then we're going to take this little loop and we're going to push it through the tag hole, which you could punch hole or you could have a proper tag hole. And this loop now, I'm going to open the loop up and I'm going to pull through those two little ends and pull it tight. Now that gives me a tag with the loop over there. And lots of people say that's how you should do it for a neat tag top, because that gives these ribbons a nice flat pull through. Now I sometimes like it when it's this way round, when it's the other way round. So all you do that way to get it that way round is you simply push it, instead of through and up, you come up from the bottom, spread out the loop the same as before, put the two ends through the loop, pull them through, and that gives you the alternative style where the loop itself goes round the back. Okay, and that way you can have all of these types of tags. And look how wonderful it is that the ribbons match perfectly, the colour matches perfectly, even down to having ones that have some little bits of glitz and glamour in to go with your glitz and glamour. Okay, so that's what I like to do with some of mine. I like to make tags. Now once I've started to make tags, it's helpful just to also know, let me spread these out, it's another whole pile of tags. I've gone tag mad today. It's also useful to know there's another way of tying the tag top, and that's like this. Okay, let me show you. So what we do this time, and I'll just undo it to show you. Okay, so this time, instead of trying to make it into a loop, I'm just going to thread the ribbon through. And this is really helpful for if you've got a slightly wider ribbon and it tends to get a bit bunched up. You see here, I've done an ordinary tag top before on this, and that's quite bulky. Now it's quite nice, but it is bulky. So when you have a slightly wider ribbon, and this one's another half as wide again, then this is a great way of doing it. So take a smaller piece of ribbon or a piece of thread and pop it round and tie it in a little knot, and then it's up to you. You can either chop it off like I have done on this one. Let me show you. There you go, that's just been chopped off, so it's just a little double knot. This one I've left a little length of the string, but I've cut it off as well. This one I've done it with a little piece of the lace. Or like this one, you can make it into a little bow, and in fact this one was in a little bow, I think, so I'll turn it back into a little bow. Let's see if I can do this. I'm not good at doing bows in front of people. Ah, there we go. Here we go. You can hear me breathing and concentrating here. There we go. Okay, so we can make it into a nice little bow. Now, along with your bows, remember you could always add a little embellishment. So, and again, this is where the colour coordination comes in. Look how beautifully coordinated all those colours are. And what's amazing is these are ribbons from the recent catalogue. This is paper from a previous catalogue. And I just wanted to show you these because it shows that even when you move from catalogue to catalogue to catalogue, you move from paper which is in style, out of ordering or not, you still have the same colour coordination. So the marvellous thing is, over time, as you collect your ribbon, even if you don't use it all up in one go, you know that next year even though that ribbon will no longer be in date and in the catalogue, it will still match all the new things that are still that colour. So it's really brilliant. Okay, so there's another few ideas for you to try. Oopsie daisy. Right, here we go. So what else can we do with our ribbons? Well, one of the things I love to do with my ribbons is to make, and here we go, here's a bit of fun. Ooh, they're all tangled up together. Here we go. I love to make little garlands. There we go. So here's my little gingerbread men garlands made with again, an out-of-date paper, but one that I loved, and I thought, you know, it'd be really nice to show you, because sometimes I like to show you older stock, because some of you still have those older papers, and it's a shame that we don't carry on using them when we demonstrate. So here we go, here's another one. Just little punch has been used here, and I've just punched out some little foil daisies, and I've stuck them back to back with a piece of the thread, the linen thread, in between, and then I've put little embellishments on some of them and left some of them blank so that it sort of flashes in the light. Okay, and here's another little idea of taking a much wider ribbon and some papers and making a really rather nice festive little banner. And wouldn't that look lovely if you had a little box and you wanted just to wrap it up, and you could wrap that round the corner? Can you imagine? I wish I'd done it actually just to show you, but can you imagine a little, maybe a cardboardy box that's very plain and simple, and having a little group of those just draped over the corner? How smart is that? So ribbon is a great way to set the scene for those kind of garlands. Okay, what else can we use our ribbon for? Well, let's have a look at, oops, let's have a little look at some bags. So I love making bags, and I make this style of bag a great deal. In fact, I really must at some point do some little videos on how to make this style of bag. I will do. But I want to just to show you, you can use ribbons for popping inside, just fastened inside there with a little piece of tape and a little bit of glue, and those make wonderful handles for a bag. Okay, you've just got to think whether you need to go all the way around underneath and back again for a really hefty bag, so it takes something heavy, or whether if it's just for something light like this was for a piece of jewellery, then just a little piece that's stuck at the top is just fine. So handles is one thing. What about handles and little taggy tassels? Just by adding some extra little bits, we've got some really nice decorative pieces there. And again, colour matches, coordinates perfectly. What about adding a ribbon here, which is actually almost like a little cuff, which actually seals, here we go, look, it actually seals the top of the bag. So a really fabulous blousy ribbon, but that's just enough to slip on and off as a little sleeve to hold the bag closed. How pretty is that? Again, I've used this as a slip-on, slip-off sleeve. Okay, so that does the same, and I've made my little piece of jewellery and popped it in there. It's a pair of earrings, and I've added a little bow to match the top of this one. And the special thing about these is that the bow has been made with the same ribbon as the background, and I'll show you how that happens. So I've took a piece of somewhere, hold on, here we go. I took a piece like this. I actually haven't got this ribbon anymore. Oh, yes, I have. I've got it somewhere else. Never mind. We'll use this. So I took a piece like this, and what I've done is I have used my scissors to cut all the way up like that in between the two strands of thread. So here we go. I've gone almost to the end, so let's just cut it off. Okay, and it just takes a little bit of care, which is why I've done it up front, because you just have to be careful. And there is a piece of wonderful thread. Now, because I have cut through what is a zigzag of invisible threads underneath, which is woven underneath, now I've cut that one strand off, it means that all the others can simply be pulled off. And I suddenly have got the ability to pull together a whole lot of strands of ribbon, and I can now make what is those lovely, roughly, slightly frayed looking bows. Oh, here we go. Tuck it through. Oh, that's even more frayed and roughly. Let's start again. Let me grab another few rather than untangle those. Oh, I'm all butterfingers today. It's a very hot day here in England. I don't know why, but on hot days, I don't know about you, but sometimes when you get hot and tired, it's harder to just concentrate. Right, I'm going to take my two bunny ears. I'm going to go up and over. I'll bring them through. That's it. Here we go. There we go. Concentrating now. Beautiful little bow. And we want that kind of shaggy chic, shaggy sort of chic kind of look. Not shabby chic, but shaggy chic. Okay, so that's another idea, is to deconstruct your ribbons. So I'm just going to have a little look at deconstructing some of our ribbons, because there's amazing things you can do with ribbons once you start not just using them as they are, but you can start to pick them away, pick them to pieces, and a bit like when you colour them, you can make what was just one single white bow into lots and lots of coloured bows. But now I can, by deconstructing and reconstructing, I can make lots of different types of things. So I've now moved from having a simple linen Hessian simple plain ribbon like that into having lots and lots of lovely threads to work with. What about taking this is one of our newer ribbons. This is a really pretty ribbon, and what I've done is, because it's woven, I'm going to bring this right up to the camera now. Let's just wait till it's, yes, there we go, it's in focus. What I've done is I've looked along here and I've chosen out, it's woven in like little groups and threads, which is how it makes these patterns. And I've picked out that little bunch there, and I'm going to pull them. And I've picked out the second lot of woven threads on this side. And by pulling those, what it does is it just bunches up the weave. And I now have a really lovely textured crinkly ribbon, as well as the normal weave that I had before. So that's quite different. You would think that that was a different ribbon to this, but actually all it is I have pulled the threads. Now, sometimes I pull the threads and I also chop them off. And then when you unpull it, in fact, shall we have a go? I don't know what this one does. I've never tried it, so this might be a bit of an experiment. Let's cut those off. So I've now got a whole lot of lovely little individual threads to do things with, which I'm going to put to one side. But also now, if I unpick this, oh yes it does, there you are. Now I also have a slightly see-through ribbon. Can you see? So I could have the plain ribbon that I had before, but where I've pulled the threads through, I've now got an open weave end to the ribbon. So by deconstructing and reconstructing, I can do amazing things. What about a piece of the lace? So this is lovely lace. It's a simple scalloped lace ribbon. That's how it comes, like that. But if I work along the edge very carefully, and as I say, I've done a little bit of this before, if I work very gently along this edge, and I just cut away slowly but carefully, I can have a little piece of almost like a lacy linen thread, which I can do really pretty little tiny weeny bows or little tiny strands. I could maybe thread some beads on that and they'd make lovely little hanging, dangling tag ends, perhaps, if I thread some beads onto those. Okay, I can also then cut out the netting so that I end up with just a beautiful little scalloped edge. I can use that scalloped edge to just finish off a particular thing. And in fact, I think I'm right in saying, yes, I did. I used it to finish off a little scalloped edge on this tag that I'd made earlier. Okay. So that's another thing you can do with the lace. You can cut pieces out of it. And also when you get threads which have something like a little piece of lovely silver going through it, this particular one is 2 strands of different colours. It's white and I can't remember which colour this is. Anyway, it's one of the blues, and it's also silver. So remember, if you want to, you can pull away, and I can now have a piece of plain blue. I can also have a piece of plain white, and I've also got an amazingly tiny piece of beautiful metallic, just little tiny ethereal metallic thread, which I can do some very pretty tiny little scrunchies with on a card to add a little tiny little sparkle of glitter. So think about every time you're choosing your ribbons, can you take them to pieces? How is the weave constructed? Because look out for ones that are twisted or woven together, because you can always do some extra little things with them. Okay, so let's just bring those out of the way. So what else would we use our ribbons for? Well, I think quite often they can be quite functional. So although they're very pretty, we can use them for things like putting a loop on the top of our little decorative Christmas hanger. Okay, we could have done that in paper, we could have done it in anything, but by being a piece of ribbon, and a narrow piece of ribbon, it means it will hang beautifully on a hook. We can use it functionally as a little tag to pull, to make the mechanism for a pull-out card. So here we go. And because this is nice and thick and easy, it's not going to get dirty, or if it does, it won't matter because it's multicoloured. That makes for another pretty way to open and close your card. What about using it to tie just simply the top of a cellophane bag? So I've made all my chocolates and I've used the little bow at the top. And once again, here's where Stampin' Up is absolutely magic, because whatever paper you've used, you can probably find a ribbon that matches perfectly, or you can find a white one and Stampin' Blend marker it to match. So tops of bags. One of the other lovely things to do is to make a little slip. You know, we had the slip on the top of the bag. Well, these are little slips for little tiny gifts. And we can decorate the ribbon and the embellishments to make them really, really pretty, a whole little selection. So the foils show through the see-through ribbons. Look for see-through ribbons. They're so lovely because they shine through whatever you've put underneath. The same idea, but this time I've got a little tiny scented candle in here. And here we go, a little pretty piece of ribbon with a little embellishment. So adding ribbon and embellishment, suddenly you've got a really beautiful little gift. We can also use it for opening and closing things. So this needs to, oops, let's pop them in. This needs to be opened and closed, so it's a little makeup box, and we can just turn this round and suddenly it's all nicely closed. And I wish I could say thank you to whoever made this, because somebody made this as a swap. Normally on my videos, most 90%, at least 99% probably of most videos I've made, but occasionally somebody's made something, given it me, and I think that's so nice I have to feature it. So thank you whoever made that. And I will probably do a video of how to make those because they're so nice. What about the other thing that you can do, and that is just put a piece of thread through or a ribbon through, doesn't matter which, and hang a little extra card. So you've got a little secret message as well as your main message. So thank you, you could put your name maybe, and then you could put just a general greeting inside. So we can use our ribbons to be functional as hangers, pulleys, closures, all kinds of things. We can also use them to add quite a bit of extra little bits of glitz and sparkle. So here we go. These are lovely cards, all quite different, and in fact they don't go terribly well together. The colours scheme doesn't go well together, but each individually shows you just what I mean. So the black and white here, without that, let me see if I can just block it off. Hold on one moment. Oops, I forgot to bring this across. Here we go. So if I block off that little ribbon there, okay, that's quite a boring sort of ordinary card. As soon as the ribbon goes on, whee, that lifts it up, it makes it into a bauble instead of just a blob, and it adds an amount of shine and sparkle. Same here, if we didn't have this little silver edge to the ribbon, it wouldn't shine up these lovely and reflect these lovely little things, and it wouldn't also shine up those lovely little twinkly pieces in the sky too. So the whole thing just adds a little sparkle and glitz, which makes it feel kind of wintry. The same thing here, we've got just a loop or two of gold thread, and this is another one that I've copied off somebody else. I actually did make this, but I copied the design from someone else, and again it's quite a long time ago that I did it, and I was looking on the back. I usually pop the name of the person, and I'm sorry, I just didn't. And another little tiny piece where this gold thread just contrasts with the gold and picks up the foil and the glitter paper. So glitter and glitz is quite a big thing for ribbons. Now the other thing that ribbon can do, excuse my arm going across, the other thing that what was I say? Oh yeah, the other thing that ribbon can do is it can affect the style of something, okay? And the style can be influenced by, for example, a little bit of lace. Now, as soon as you add a little piece of lace into a card, a little piece of lace here in vanilla, very vanilla, and a piece in whisper white, somehow it becomes ultra feminine, ultra pretty. So adding that just instantly sets the style and the tone of the card. Okay. How about adding a little bit of a nautical knot? So not only does the red colour say something, you know, that red, white and blue is really a good sailing kind of colour, but also having a knot makes it just feel even more nautical. Okay, what about having a little bit of glitz in the middle? Here we've made our own little tassels, tied them with some gold thread, and we've got the gold thread going through here and the gold foil underneath, and suddenly this kind of sets the style. It's this Middle Eastern kind of style to it. What about a bit of shabby chic? Another little piece of lace, but this time kind of complementing the shabby chic. Again, quite a feminine little card. How about a very simple but colour matched coordinated piece of ribbon? Only a tiny piece, but somehow it creates that Parisienne simplistic look, ready for those lovely little watercolours. So just adding that ribbon at the top changes the feel of things, especially when you team it up with a really nice embellishment. What about adding a banner? Here we've got metallic little tile, and by having a little banner of ribbon, picks up the colours from the background. So we've picked up the white, and there's the white, and we've picked up the silver, and somehow it kind of feels like it's a certificate, a medal, something rather smart. Okay, back to something nautical, and again, depends. If we tie knots instead of bows, it kind of gives you that sailing flavour. What about adding a little piece of silver ribbon and then adding your snowflakes to it, and somehow that just ties the design together? What about putting a little bit of rope in the background, a little bit of twine in the background? Just swips all over the place, and the chaos of the water and the waves and the swish and the swash of the sea is almost reflected in that lovely piece of twine. And without that twine, it wouldn't have that feeling of movement in the background. Okay, now here's another one that somebody else made, and this time I do know who made it. Thank you very much, Barbara. Barbara I met at one of our big conventions, lovely lady, and I walked quite often from the hotel to the conference centre with her, and she gave me this as a swap, and isn't this lovely? And this ribbon I love because it doesn't actually match. It's not the same colour, but it goes to perfection. I think it's beautiful. It sets that homely kind of homespun woven feel to this, which is perfect for the whole card. Hasn't she done that beautifully? And even the envelope to match. And somehow this is the perfect choice of ribbon, even better than if she'd chosen a red or a green or a white. It just sets that kind of basket open woven look to it. Thank you, Barbara, for that one. So what happens if we want something a bit less frilly and a bit less, perhaps a bit more macho? And I like to say macho rather than masculine or feminine, because I have to say that I like the macho cards, and if I'm making something for my husband, he loves frilly and he loves floral, so I rather don't think of them as masculine and feminine, but these are just a little simpler, very simplistic. A little tag, again a swap from, I'm guessing, when I was in Germany, because it actually has a German thing on. And again, I'm sad to say that I have lost the tag. A happy birthday that I did with just 2 little pieces. Another one which Nicole, thank you for Nicole for doing this one. She put these, and she took the colours directly from the paper in the background. She took the 3 main colours from the paper and popped one of each of the ribbons in the top. And all you do to make those is you take your ribbon, so let's take a piece of ribbon. Oops. There's my piece of ribbon. Let's take a piece of red. Hold on one moment. So I'm going to just cut that piece of red. All I do is I take a small piece of ribbon, and I probably didn't need this much, and I fold it in half, and I put a dot of glue or even a piece of tear tape in between, clop them together, and I put another little piece of tear tape or glue here, and it goes in behind. So imagine this is the page and it just sticks in behind, and depending on how much you want sticking out, you leave hanging out at the side, and it kind of gives you a feeling that you're not doing it anything that's too frilly or too fancy. So it's a really nice way to use your ribbons, perhaps for a more macho, more manly card, plainer card, let's say. Okay, what about doing a little bit of pleating? I love a little piece of pleated. There we go. Let me just bring this up because it's quite shiny. I'm trying to get it so it's not shining for you. Oh, come on, come on. I'm hoping you can see that. It's black and it's shiny. So all I've done is I have taken the, so I'll just do it with a piece of plainer. I've taken a piece like this and I have folded it over. I've put a little piece of tear tape here. So I'll show you. So I take a little tiny piece of tear tape, oops, and I pop it down. Okay, and I take a piece of this and I fold it back on it. Okay, stick it down. And I do the same on this side. So another little piece. And you can do this with glue dots or tear tape. It's quite hard to do with glue because the glue tends to soak all the way through, and it tends to then end up in just a sort of muddy, sloppy mess. So again, we've put one on the back, and we're now going to fold this back. And all I have to do is make sure it keeps nice and straight. Okay, and there's my first little pleat. So it leaves the end of the pleat open, and it looks like it's nice and open. Okay. And then I take another little piece, and this time I pop it here, and I take that off, and I plop it over like this. So let's take it off. Oh, come on, come on, come on. And this is where I wish I'd got my little pokey tool. You know, that lovely, wonderful multi-purpose tool? Oh, there we go. And I'm going to just take this. Now, if I was doing this really carefully and really beautifully, I would be measuring how far each pleat was, or I can just do it by eye like that. And what you'll see is it's starting to pleat. Okay? And that's what it looks like when it's finished. You just pleat as far as you want. Okay, another nice little thing you can do. Something that I didn't mention at the beginning, but actually I was going to, and I've kind of missed, so I'm going to come back. When I was looking at all the various tags, and it's probably a bit late, although I might be able to find a few because I've just chucked them all over the place. So let's see if I can find a few. Hold on one moment, one moment, one moment. Right, I'm managing to find a fair few. Right. We need to think about how we're going to tape the ends of our various ribbons. Sometimes we can't leave it flat because what will happen is it will fray. We can sometimes have a flat end. Here's one. And actually we can just seal the ends, especially if it's just got a touch of polyester or a little bit of man-made in it, with a cigarette lighter or a little tiny bit of, if you've got a hot wire from something like a wood etching device, or you can just hold a hot iron and it just singes the ends. But I don't tend to do that. I tend to just cut them off, and if they fray a touch, it's tough. So there's what could be a flat-ended ribbon. Here's what you can also do is, if it's going to fray, well, why not make the fraying a feature? Why not just make the frayed end kind of a bit of fun? So here's a frayed end. So there's the second one. Let's put them in order like we have here. The other thing you can do is you can cut them at an angle. Hang on, let me find one that's cut at an angle. No, that one isn't. Here we go. This one was cut at an angle like this. And in fact, you can cut them and have them both the same length, or you can quite often get some very nice effects if you have one slightly longer and showing behind the other. Okay. You can also cut them so that they become, oops, here we go, so that they become an angle like this, or an angle like that, so they become more of a pointed shape. And of course you can cut them like this, and I'm going to show you how to get a really superbly crisp one of these. And here's another one where it's great to do when you've got a ribbon like this where it's slightly different. So each side, this one has got the dark and the light, and that side's got the light and the dark, and it's quite nice just to have them at different lengths so it shows the difference. Okay, so let me just show you how to make a really lovely little tag end like that. So first and foremost, you need your piece of ribbon, and what you're going to do is you are going to cut up the centre just a short way, okay, right up the very centre, and then you're going to turn it and you're going to cut from the corner to that centre line, okay, and then you're going to turn it this way and you're going to go from this corner to the centre line. And now you have a really nice, evenly balanced, perfect little fork. Okay, so think about how you're going to finish the ends of your ribbons, because that can also add to the style and attractiveness of your designs. Now, sometimes ribbons can also be really fabulous for places just to fill in a bit of space. So they're not a main look at me star player, but they're just a little filler, gap, little touch of texture, just a little gap filler. For example, this card, we could have just had the butterfly and the writing, because actually the ribbon is fairly indescript and only just visible. But by adding that little bit of movement and texture, it makes such a difference. That would be so boring without it. Okay, that adds just perfectly to the whole idea of that card. The same with this one. You know, all the concentration is here, and we want to keep the concentration here because this is where our centerpiece is, this is where all the star quality is in this card. But by having this little crossovered piece of ribbon that just ties in a tiny knot at the front, instead of having a blank piece of boringness here, we have just that little bit of extra texture to balance the card up. Okay, and likewise with this one, we have our little, oh, can't get it to work, there we go. We have our little clip pop-up card, and it just needed a little bit of something to lift the colour. And by adding that little piece of yarn, which has the tiny little bit of gold thread in, it just adds a little bit of something to that, and to finish this piece separate from this piece. Okay, so just also consider that yarn and ribbon can also be used to fill up space, but to fill up space in a really positive, wonderful way. Okay, we can also use our yarn and card. Let me just pop this underneath. Just to do little teeny things. Remember, you can cut your yarn in half. So if you have, for example, let's take, you maybe have a little piece of gingham. Remember, there's nothing stopping you from cutting your gingham in half. Okay, let's just take a little piece of it and having a little tiny piece of gingham. So where you think, oh, I don't want a big bold piece of clunky gingham, I might just want a little tiny piece. And this is an example of that. This was a much thicker, wider ribbon, and I just cut it in half, in fact I think even in a quarter. And it makes a lovely little edge for a name place setting, or a little tag for a present. And vice versa, we can use our thread to the same effect. And don't forget that we can often, if we want to just conceal the ends, if we don't want some pretty ends, we might want to just conceal them. We can always cut a second piece of card, same colour as the background, so it only just shows, and we just lay it in a bit and we wrap the threads or the ribbon and tuck it inside. Okay. When we're thinking of tiny details, also consider just wrapping some random pieces of thread and card into the background. To make maybe tag toppers. Here's two little banners that I could use on cards, and all I've done is cut out some pieces here, I've cut out a piece of paper there, and we've added some threads to make it really quite fun. So that's another idea. I've just been wiggling my scissors and I was just moving them out the way. Here's another thing you can do, and I just realised. Here's another thing you can do with your materials and your yarns and your ribbons, is you can make yourself a little toggle for your scissors. I've got several toggles here. I've got a lovely one here which has got a G and a little butterfly that Janneke made me as a swap, one of my lovely crafty friends over in Holland. And this was just a little piece of recent ribbon with Gilly's, so keep off, these are mine. So when I go to big events, I know these are my scissors. Because I know my friends are just sneaky, they'll just run off with my ribbon, my scissors without thinking. No, they wouldn't. But it does mean that if I'm stupid enough to leave them lying around, somebody will say, Jill, I think these are yours. Okay, here we go. I've also said at the very beginning that I was going to recommend the 4 things you should buy if you are starting off as a beginner with ribbons. So the first thing I would buy myself is some kind of linen thread, because you can make very nice little natural pretty ribbons that kind of go on anything because they're nice and neutral. Now you've seen that if you buy these kind of ribbons, that you can cut them down and make little natural pieces. Unfortunately, at this moment in time, there isn't one of these type of ribbons in the catalogue, but I'm going to shout those out because I suspect that Stampin' Up will bring back some of those style of ribbons again sometime. So linen thread on its own, or better still, a spool of this kind of stuff which you can pull your own threads from. Then I would say choose yourself something metallic and bling, because one of the reasons we use ribbon quite a lot is just to add a bit of sparkle. So again, this is lovely, and both of these are in the catalogue at the moment, so it depends whether you're a gold person or a silver person, depends whether you want little tiny things or whether you're big bold. Think about buying yourself something with a bit of metallic bling to it. Then the third thing I would choose is something soft and see-through. So I love our toil ribbon. I love our polka dot toil. And I use it in loads of my things. I also love the lace. So I would say you need something which is soft and see-through. Take your choice as to which you have. And remember with both of these that you can always colour them up into lots of other colours. Then I would also choose myself something white. So either of these two would be ideal. If you're a blingy kind of person, I would choose this one, which is a lovely white satin, and it has a silver edge. It's also available with a gold edge, so if you're a gold kind of girl, maybe go for the gold edged one. Or I would go for the very plain, lovely, simple linen. Now, the reason why, because this bow and this bow are made with this ribbon. Why? Because I've coloured them. You know, we showed you we can use the Stampin Blends. These are them. you can't really use the markers. You can't really use the dye ink. I have seen people using both the markers, the dye markers and dye inks. But the problem is they are water-based, so the minute your damp hand touches them, then it starts to reactivate the ink and you get a little bit of the ink rubs off. These, however, because they're using the Stampin Blends, they are totally water. Well, look, I've got my wet sticky hands on them and I can do this and nothing's going to come off, because once they're dry, that is an alcohol based ink and it will stay. And here I've just done a little sample for you, look, of all the different colours and how beautiful they look. So you could in fact use rainbow colours, you can use multicoloured ribbons, you can make what look like tie-dyed different ribbons. So if I fold this at different places, I could end up with a lovely red and purple ribbon, and I could ombre them together if I'm really clever. So think about having something which is white, which you can work Stampin Blends with, and I would then buy myself 2 or 3 different colours of the Stampin Blends, or as many as I could afford, to be honest. I'd have tons, and I do have tons, but just for starters, bit of linen, something bling and sparkly, something see-through and soft, so that you can create those almost non-ribbon moments, like the butterfly was. That's one of those soft and see-throughs. It just gives you that extra option. And then choose something white which you can colour and change. And then it's up to you. Depends on your budget. Go into the catalogue and go to these pages, which are pages 160 and 161, and have a look at the fabulous selection of ribbons that we have. Don't forget there'll be different ribbons in each of the mini catalogues, and choose your favourite colours, your favourite designs, add to that selection of 4 as many other ones as you desire, because you will want ones in your own style and your own colour range. Some of us like pale and pastel, some of us like big and bold, so choose your own. Well, thank you for listening, but what you're probably disappointed in is that I haven't actually given you any instructions on how to tie these fabulous bows. And wouldn't you love to be able to tie these beautiful bows? Wouldn't you like to be able to do a really neat and tidy one like that? So what I have decided to do was, rather than make this an incredibly long video, because it's already far too long, I am going to, over the next month or 2, I'm going to produce 10 more little tiny mini videos, so maybe only 10-minute jobs, maybe not even that long, where I'm going to tell you how to make a false bow, how to make a bunny ears bow, how to make a shoe tie bow, how to do bundle bows, and just for showing you, that's a bundle bow. Isn't that pretty? I'm going to show you how to do loopy toppers that make them look fabulous on top of boxes, a wrap bow, a behind text bow. So I'm going to show you how to make these wonderful behind, where you use them behind text boxes, or you use them behind a little tiny piece. I'm going to show you how to do belly bands in different ways, which are the little bands that hold something together. I'm going to show you how to do traditional boxes with traditional bows, and how to deal with ribbons which have different textures or different colours on different sides. And I'm also going to do a video on how to store your ribbons, because I have used in the past quite a number of ways, and I still have 3 completely different ways to store my ribbons, depending on whether they're old stock or new stock, or they're just for fun. So come back and look for those other videos over the next couple of months, and to save you having to find them and worry about them and not know what, then please hit the subscribe button, please, and then you'll be notified just the moment they come out, and I won't have to worry about it and you won't either. Out will pop in your email a little message that says Gilly's just produced a ribbon tutorial. Okay, so thanks for listening, and do come back for the very last in my series, which is Z. And I think I'm going to leave you guessing. I wonder what Z will be for. Thank you. Bye-bye.